another 20 years, Chinese people will not be able to make such a movie. In fact, let alone 20 years, even on the day of the end of South Korea, Chinese people will not be able to do it. Because the perverted scale of this movie has already broken through the sky. Although no one can deny that this work will be remembered in film history, is its existence right or wrong? The angel in a suit in front of you is the protagonist of the movie, Dae-Su. Today is his daughter's birthday, so he bought angel wings as a gift. However, the drunken Dae-Su not only forgot his daughter's birthday, but also had a conflict with passers-by. He was taken to Orange by the police uncle for a friendly exchange. After a drunken madness that was enough to make him shoot to death, Dae-Su gradually regained his sanity. He asked his good friend Lao Huan to bail him out. The first thing he did when he went out was to call his daughter. He asked his daughter to wait for a while, and he would go home immediately with a surprise. Lao Huan then took the phone and chatted with the girl, but after a few words, when Lao Huan looked back, he had lost the trace of Dae-Su. Dae-Su disappeared. Not just disappeared here, but disappeared in this world. The old patient and Dae-Su's family searched all over Korea, but there was no trace of Dae-Su, as if he had never existed. In fact, Dae-Su was not dead, but he didn't even know where he was. Because he was locked in a closed room, except for someone delivering food to him every day, he had no contact with any outside things. 1 day, 2 days, 3 months passed, and Dae-Su was about to be tortured crazy by this endless emptiness, especially because he had no clue about this matter, which made him crazy. Although he usually likes to brag, he couldn't think of who he had offended and would use this method to retaliate against him. Just like that, I don't know how long it has been, hypnotic gas suddenly sprayed out in the room. Dae-Su just fell asleep, and then 2 people came into the room. They cleaned Dae-Su's hair and changed his clothes. Strangely, they also drew Dae-Su's blood, which made Dae-Su a little confused. 2 days later, Dae-Su saw his home in the news. His wife was brutally murdered, but the police found Dae-Su's blood in the house. There were also his fingerprints on the cup. What's more strange is that their family album also disappeared mysteriously. All these traps led the suspicion to Dae-Su. Dae-Su was extremely sad. His wife was murdered, but he became the scapegoat. And how could his young daughter survive? The huge blow made Dae-Su determined to die. However, he tried various methods, but was finally saved by a mysterious person. Dae-Su had to give up. Since he couldn't escape and couldn't die, he might as well do something meaningful. So Dae-Su began to practice boxing and kicking in this prison, and quietly chiseled the wall with iron chopsticks in the dead of night. Although the process was extremely slow, Xiao Shenki could dig a tunnel with a little wolf head, and he might not fail. In this way, under the belief of revenge, day after day, 15 years passed in a blink of an eye. The outside world was turbulent and the times had changed dramatically. Dae-Su in the prison was still in that embarrassed look, but his eyes became more determined, and there seemed to be a glimmer of hope. Yes, after more than 10 years of persistence, Dae-Su finally dug open the wall. However, the day before he decided to escape from prison, the hypnotic gas was released again. A woman walked in not very gracefully. She held a bell in her hand and hypnotized Dae-Su with a few light words. When Dae-Su woke up, he was no longer in prison, but on the rooftop of a high-rise building. He was no longer wearing the tattered clothes, but a decent suit. The joy of seeing the light of day again made him eager to confide in others, so he caught a man who wanted to commit suicide and forced him to listen to his story. The man thought it was a game of exchanging stories. When he wanted to tell the reason for his suicide, Dae-Su left without looking back. For Dae-Su, his time was not wasted here. In the elevator, Dae-Su found an old lady. As they had not met for a long time, Dae-Su's eyes were filled with lust. He tried his best to restrain his desire, but the old lady was already trembling with fear. After walking out of the building, Dae-Su still faced a problem. He was a rookie with no startup capital. What should he do? Don't worry, the mysterious man had already thought about it for him. A beggar squatted beside Dae-Su and handed him a mobile phone and wallet. Although Dae-Su wanted to find the mysterious man, he was more anxious to eat a meal other than fried dumplings, so he came to a sushi restaurant. He often saw the program of this restaurant on the TV in the prison. He also said that the girl in the restaurant was the youngest Japanese cooking master in Korea. Seeing that he was so familiar with her, the girl also had a little curiosity in her heart. At this time, a call came to Dae-Su's mobile phone. The caller was the mysterious man. Dae-Su asked the mysterious man who he was emotionally, but the mysterious man said calmly. Finally, the mysterious man provoked Dae-Su. If you want to know the truth, find me quickly. Dae-Su was angered by the mysterious man, and he grabbed the squid and stuffed it into his mouth. This scene shocked the little girl next to him. Such a unique and elegant temperament made her deeply attracted to Dae-Su. At this moment, Dae-Su suddenly fainted on the table. When he woke up, he was lying on the little girl's bed. The little girl was very curious about Dae-Su. She looked through Dae-Su's prison diary and learned what kind of tragic experience this uncle had. Dae-Su certainly didn't want to be sympathized by the little girl. She snatched the diary and lay down in the quilt again. At this moment, Dae-Su suddenly touched a strange thing and asked the little girl what it was. It turned out that Dae-Su had been hit by a critical strike without knowing it. Dae-Su was indignant when he learned the bad news. He rushed into the bathroom to prepare for revenge, but was beaten out by the little girl with a stick, and Dae-Su was somewhat damaged. It turned out that Dae-Mei also liked him, but they had just met, and he couldn't accept it for the time being. Although Dae-Su was very anxious, he also understood that haste makes waste, so he didn't force it. In fact, in addition to revenge, Dae-Su is also very anxious about one thing, that is, the whereabouts of his daughter, but he is still the murderer of his wife, and it is not easy for him to ask relatives and friends. So he entrusts Dae-Mei to find out the news. After investigation, Dae-Su learned that after his wife died, his daughter was adopted by a Swedish couple. The couple are both doctors and have a good family. After hearing this news, Dae-Su's heart was relieved, but he was not in a hurry to see his daughter, nor did he visit his wife, because what he wanted to do now was revenge for his wife and the 15 years he had lost. He wanted to find out who was teasing his life, but it was not easy to find the mysterious person, because the only clue he had was the stitches. He had stitches every day for the past 15 years, and he would never forget the taste of the stitches until he died. And he had seen the words Guo Qinglong on the packaging of the stitches, so he began to look for a stitch shop about Qinglong in South Korea. Finally, after trying dozens of shops, Dae-Su saw a stitch shop with the word Qinglong in a phone book, and the taste of the stitches in the shop was exactly what he remembered. So Dae-Su followed the store delivery man all the way to an abandoned building. It looked deserted, but it had long been transformed into a private prison, where the victims were all imprisoned by the head of the department. This was the point where Dae-Su was imprisoned for 15 years. Dae-Su thought that by kidnapping the head of the prison, he would know the ins and outs of his kidnapping. However, he used tooth extraction to interrogate the worm, but there was only a tape, and the warden had never seen the mysterious man. Soon, the big hands of the prison forces swarmed in, and Dae-Su fought against the wolves alone. After all, the 15 years of hard work in prison were not in vain. Even with a dagger stuck in his back, he still stood firm to kill the wormtail. However, at this time, Dae-Su was already covered with wounds, and he stumbled to the ground before he crossed the road. Fortunately, a kind-hearted young man helped him up and sent him to a rental car. But the strange thing is that this young man actually knew where he lived. Just when Dae-Su was a little strange, the young man suddenly stuck his head in. This sentence was so familiar, and this voice was so harsh. It turned out that this seemingly enthusiastic young man was the mysterious man who persecuted his life. Wu Dae-Su lay on the bed, thinking for a long time, but he didn't know who this person was, and he didn't know how he offended him, and why he teased him like this. Meeting the mysterious man made the fog even deeper. Dae-Su knew that he might never find the answer by himself, and he needed a capable helper, so he found his best friend Lao Huan 15 years ago. 15 years ago, Dae-Su disappeared from Lao Huan's eyes, and he blamed himself for a long time. This time Dae-Su suddenly appeared, and Lao Huan was also very excited. Soon, Dae-Su told him everything about his experience in the past 15 years. Lao Huan thought that it was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find the mysterious man in reality. But there might be some clues on the internet. After all, Lao Huan was an internet cafe owner and knew some hacking techniques, so the two began to look for relevant information on the internet. At this time, a man named Qinglong added Dae-Su as a friend, and this Qinglong was the mysterious man. At this time, Dae-Su suddenly remembered that Qinglong's name was also in Dae-Mei's friend list. So Dae-Su hurried back to ask Dae-Mei whether he was an undercover planted by the mysterious man next to him. Dae-Mei struggled fiercely, but he was really confused and saw that Mei was about to be strangled to death by Dae-Su. The old patient finally called. He found Qinglong's address through the computer IP, and Qinglong actually lived downstairs from them. Dae-Su went to the address without hesitation and found Qinglong there. However, Qinglong seemed to have expected Dae-Su to come. He had only one little brother by his side, but he was not nervous at all because he set a trap so that Dae-Su could not kill him. Dae-Su wanted to use torture to force Qinglong, but Qinglong was alive with a pacemaker. He also had a remote control in his hand. As long as Dae-Su wanted to torture him, he would immediately press the button to commit suicide, so that Dae-Su would never know the truth. For Dae-Su at this time, revenge is important, but if he doesn't know the truth, he will live in the shadow for the rest of his life. So he decided to find out the truth first and then kill this insidious Qinglong. However, Qinglong set a deadline for Dae-Su. He must find the answer before July 5th. Otherwise, he will kill everyone Dae-Su cares about, including Dae-Mei. And there are only 5 days left until July 5. When Dae-Su returned home, Dao-Mei was being mobilized by the prison forces. The warden was here for revenge, and he was ready to fight back and let Dae-Su also taste the taste of a leaky mouth. Fortunately, Qinglong paid in time to settle the warden. The successive shocks made Dao-Mei particularly excited. He didn't know how many days he could live with Dae-Su, but he wanted to keep the present. So the two of them were in a rage. Dao-Mei handed over the first child of his life, and Dae-Su got married again after 15 years. At this time, Dae-Su was even a little grateful for the 15-year proposal. Otherwise, how could he get the favor of Dao-Mei? However, he had no idea how cruel the impulse of this night would bring. After the two fell asleep that night, hypnotic gas poured in again, and Qinglong opened the door and entered. He took pictures of the masks of the two and left a gift. This gift was the warden's hand, because this hand had touched Dao-Mei's chest. After the two woke up, they looked limp. Dae-Su realized that he must have Qinglong's tracker on him, so he found a professional to remove it. And then they found Lao Huan. The three of them started to investigate everything about Qinglong. After searching, they found a website called Qinglong Life-Saving Club. The school that appeared on this website was the high school that Dae-Su and Lao Huan had attended. Dae-Su followed this clue and found Qinglong in the alumni album. Qinglong's real name is Li Yuzhen. It turns out that there is indeed some intersection between them, but they have never met. Where did this intersection appear? When exchanging information with Lao Huan, Dae-Su learned that Li Yuzhen had a sister named Li Shuya. She was in the same class as Lao Huan, and Dae-Su was next to them. However, there was no photo of Li Shuya in the alumni album because she drowned not long after Dae-Su transferred to the school. Dae-Su asked Lao Huan what kind of person this Li Shuya was. Lao Huan said in a perfect tone that this girl looked serious on the surface, but was actually unrestrained in her heart and was said to be with many boys. Lao Huan said that he was living a dark life, but he didn't expect that this sentence would bring him a catastrophe because Li Shuya's brother, Li Yuzhen, was sitting opposite him. He might also be threatened at any time, but South Korea is so big, how can we guarantee the safety of Dao-Mei? After thinking for a long time, Dae-Su contacted the warden and sent Dao-Mei directly to the prison. After all, Li Yuzhen even chopped off the warden's hand, and the two would never cooperate again, and the warden did not take Dae-Su's money, because for him, the enemy of his enemy is a friend. As long as Dae-Su solves Li Yuzhen, he will be revenged and solve his worries. Dae-Su began to investigate from the death of Li Shuya. He found the barbershop next to the school at that time. The proprietress here was a person with a story at first glance. She told Dae-Su that Li Shuya was actually a very simple girl, not as unbearable as the rumors said, and she did not commit suicide because of these rumors. The real reason might be that she was pregnant. After all, she did have a boyfriend at the time. Dae-Su asked the proprietress why she knew this information, and the proprietress said that she heard it from Lao Huan. Then she asked Dae-Su, "Aren't you the one who knows the most about this?" Dae-Su's brain was a little confused. Do these things have anything to do with her? She was a virgin until she graduated from college. Even if Li Shuya was pregnant, it had nothing to do with her. But why did Li Yuzhen seek revenge on her? Just when Dae-Su's brain was stuck, the doorbell of the barbershop rang. This ringing bell instantly pulled her thoughts back to high school. It turned out that the truth was like this. It was a weekend afternoon. Wu Dae-Su saw a very quiet girl on the playground. The two chatted for a few words, but Dae-Su did not ask the other party's name and did not doubt it. Dae-Su saw the girl follow a boy to the laboratory. She was very curious in her heart, so she quietly slipped to the window, and she saw a scene that she would never forget. The boy in the classroom was actually taking off the girl's underwear, undressing the girl, and doing many unspeakable things. Dae-Su's eyes were straight when she saw this, but her peeping scene was also noticed by the girl, and Dae-Su could only run away in a hurry. At that time, Dae-Su didn't know that the girl was Li Shuya, and she didn't know that the boy was Li Shuya's brother, Li Yuzhen. Later, Dae-Su told Lao Huan about this matter and told him not to spread it. However, Lao Huan not only guessed the identity of the heroine, but also didn't keep his mouth shut, so the matter spread from one person to another. In addition, Li Shuya seemed to be really pregnant, which made the rumors even more crazy. Li Shuya finally committed suicide because she couldn't bear it. Dae-Su believes that the reason why Li Yuzhen chose July 5 to end everything may be because this day is Li Shuya's death anniversary. After arriving at the beauty hall, he asked Dae-Su, since the truth has been found out, is there no need to take revenge? But Dae-Su couldn't give up the revenge for killing his wife, and he still resolutely embarked on the road of revenge. But what he didn't know was that this journey was his way to the abyss of hell. Dae-Su found Li Yuzhen in the attic of the tower. He told her the truth he found and asked Li Yuzhen to commit suicide. But Li Yuzhen said that her sister was not pregnant, but it was just the crazy talk spread by Dae-Su that made her sister believe it. Anxiety and stress made her menstruation stop, and her belly became bigger, so she was even more afraid. The child in her belly was both her own flesh and blood and her nephew. How would she face the world in the future? So Li Yuzhen believed that it was not her doppelganger who made her sister pregnant, but Dae-Su's long tongue. Dae-Su did not deny what he did, but he believed that it was Li Yuzhen who really killed Li Shuya. It is rumored that Li Shuya committed suicide by jumping into the water on July 5th. But in Li Yuzhen's photo album, there are photos of Li Shuya taken by him on the riverbank on July 5th, which means that Li Yuzhen was also there at the time. So the truth is that Li Yuzhen also believed the rumors. He was afraid that the child would be born, so he killed his sister with his own hands. After discovering that his sister was not pregnant, he embedded all the sins on himself. After listening to Wu Daxiu's analysis, Li Yuzhen just smiled lightly. He did not immediately refute Daxiu, but raised a question. Yes, Ming Li has been in prison for 15 years. Why should he be released? There is only one answer, that is, more cruel punishment. Why did Wu Daxiu go to Dao Mi's sushi restaurant? Why did Dao Mi fall in love with Daxiu at first sight? Why did he take Daxiu home? It turned out that everything was Li Yuzhen's plan. Daxiu and Dao Mi just gradually developed a spark of love under the hypnotist's suggestion. So, what is the purpose of Li Yuzhen's painstaking efforts to do all this? He cast his eyes on the gift box with a very strange expression. Wu Daxiu stepped forward and opened the gift box. Inside was his family album that disappeared 15 years ago, which recorded the life of Wu Daxiu's family of 3. However, at this time he already had an ominous premonition, which made him extremely nervous. As the album turned page by page, when Dao Mi's photo appeared in front of him, his whole body seemed to fall into an ice cave, as if the whole world had collapsed. The girl who danced quietly with him on the bed turned out to be his woman. Wu Daxiu rushed towards Li Yuzhen like crazy. This incestuous demon actually used this method to avenge himself. Even if he died, he would cut the demon into pieces. However, Li Yuzhen had many ways to deal with him, because at this time, there was also a gift box in front of Dao Mi. It turned out that the warden was also a chess piece of Li Yuzhen. The so-called hand-cutting was just to gain Daxiu's trust. Li Yuzhen handed the phone to Daxiu and asked him to talk to Dao Mi. On the phone, Wu Daxiu called Dao Mi Little Baby, which was his nickname for his daughter. He felt that he had committed a huge crime and death was not enough to atone for his sins. His only hope now was not to let Dao Mi know the truth. So he knelt down and begged Li Yuzhen, hoping that he would let Dao Mi go. Seeing that Li Yuzhen had no reaction, he threatened to cut her into pieces. All these performances can only prove one thing, that he has completely failed. He rushed towards Li Yuzhen incoherently, hugged her feet and cried bitterly, shook his buttocks and imitated dog barking, and licked Li Yuzhen's shoes crazily. Li Yuzhen still said nothing, but had an expression of enjoyment on her face. Finally, Wu Daxiu picked up a pair of scissors and cut off his tongue. He apologized to Li Yuzhen and said that he would never grow a tongue again. Li Yuzhen seemed to be quite satisfied with Daxiu's performance, so he told the prisoner, "The box doesn't need to be opened again." Then Li Yuzhen turned and left, and the remote control of the pacemaker was thrown in front of Daxiu. Daxiu hurriedly picked up the remote control. At this time, he had two choices. The first was to let go of hatred and let everything pass. The second was to press the remote control to kill the devil. Wu Daxiu also struggled in his heart, but in the end, he still couldn't defeat hatred, so he pressed the button on the remote control. The whole room was filled with unlucky sounds, and it was getting louder and faster. These sounds pierced Wu Daxiu's ears like a sharp sword and pierced into his heart, making him live a life worse than death. However, Li Yuzhen said something meaningful. At this time, Li Yuzhen recalled the scene before her sister's death. It turned out that her sister didn't want her brother to bear the rumors, so she chose to commit suicide, but for their love, her sister never regretted it. At the beginning, Li Yuzhen didn't follow her sister because she wanted to seek justice from the world. Is the ethics of this world an iron law, so you can kill people? Now that revenge is over, Li Yuzhen took out a pistol and ended her life with one shot. At the end of the movie, Wu Daxiu found a hypnotist. He hoped to forget all the secrets of the past, become an ordinary person without secrets, and live the rest of his life with Dao Mi. The hypnotist had no intention of helping him, but he was deeply moved after seeing the last sentence Wu Daxiu wrote on the paper, so he helped Daxiu complete the hypnosis. Wu Daxiu, who knew the secret, died completely during hypnosis, while the ordinary person who survived hugged his lover Dao Mi tightly. This movie has caused a lot of controversy because it is too perverted, but the core controversy can perhaps be summarized by the words Wu Daxiu wrote on the paper. Even if I am a beast, don't I have the right to live?
Kindly like, share your thoughts in the comments section and don't forget to subscribe if this piece finds you joy.